Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jamie Masters, and today on the show we have Brian Young. Now, he owns two companies. One is paintingmarketers.com, and the other one is Home Painters Toronto, which is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So it's funny, we were just talking about this beforehand, because you know Matt Schaup, who's a guy that I also interviewed from the painting area industry, and we were talking about how in general painters aren't the guys that are making a ridiculous amount of money, and yet I've had quite a few come on the show. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a lot of people think of painting, especially some of my customers even, they say, why are you guys making so much money? Because we're charging all this money. But there's actually a ton of money to be made in the trades, and a lot of people underestimate it. And so if you run your business properly, definitely you can make tons of money in it.
So I think that's the issue though, right? If you run your business properly. I mean, and I
Absolutely.
used to deal with landscapers and plumbing companies, and
Yeah.
most of the time it's not run very well. But this is sort of your expertise. So tell me how you started going from regular old painting company to fantastic internet marketer that has been insane.
Well, actually, I went through a lot of years of pain before I got to the marketing point. I went through roughly 10 years plus of negative sales, of really struggling sales. And the reason why, because I was good at doing what I could do. I was a pretty good salesman. I could close people on the spot when I got in front of them. I could run the crews properly. I just wasn't good at marketing the business. So unfortunately, I had 10 years of a lot of pain. And that's what really kind of built up a lot of character from my point of view. And then once I figured out how to play the marketing game, then it was just like everything just went through the roof.
Okay. People love hearing those stories, but 10 years is a ridiculously long time. Did you try a lot of marketing things and then
Oh
fail?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, first of all, I'm not a tech guy. I mean, I barely I didn't even own a smartphone until about 4 years ago. So I was really new to this internet world, and I resisted it for so many years. And because of that, basically my market share was declining, whereas all my competitors had websites going and had all this automation going, and they were doing a lot better than me. And I saw it happening, but I didn't want to change because I was thinking, well, because I was a good cold caller, like I said, door-to-door guy. I was the door-to-door guy. I could knock on a door and within like 45 minutes walk out with over $1,000. And but my market share was going down and down and down and down. And so that was the biggest hurdle, was getting over that, the fact that I wasn't marketing properly.
So it's interesting though, because you did have one tactic that worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And why didn't just leveling that one thing up or hiring somebody else to do door to door actually work for you?
I tried. I tried that. I tried working with other window installers because we primarily focused on exterior and direct mail. All these things were working a little, but not enough to keep my market share going. And they were diminishing, and I could feel it diminishing every day. The fact that I was going door to door, people weren't answering as many doors. They weren't answering the phones. They wouldn't give me their information. They were looking at me as kind of like the low guy on the list in terms of how much to charge. So I could feel it going down every day, and that's when I knew I had to change at some point.
Okay, so how did you, the
How did I?
non-tech guy, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Move
Well, the
in.
first thing I did was actually the thing that kind of defined it was when I was cold calling a house in remember it was 2011 of September actually, and it was in Newmarket, and customer was really upset for me cold calling his house, and he basically shoved me and punched me in the face. So at that point, I realized, I had to change because everything I was doing wasn't working, and I was really down. That was like my drop dead downright thing. I had to change.
Somebody hit you in the
Yeah,
face?
yeah, I had to hit me in the face. A few profanities went back and forth, and so that's when I kind of just sat down. I realized I had to change, and so what I did was I didn't know what to do. I didn't know any painters that were doing what I was doing, at least at the level I was doing. So I just started Googling coaches, how to run your painting business, and one thing led to another. I hired a coach, and then as soon as I hired a coach, actually, hired a couple coaches, and a couple of them didn't quite work with me.
Hmm.
So it took me a while before I got the right coach. And then once I got a coach, he got me focused. We obviously got a website, got some automation going with Infusionsoft, figured out marketing plan, pay per click, did all the stuff that normal companies should be doing. And then from there, I just went through the roof. I think I got 300, no, the first year I doubled sales. And then from then on, I was going up about 30 to 40% a year after
See,
that.
this is amazing. Before we dive into the marketing side, I want to ask you about the coaching side because the
Sure.
hard thing is finding somebody that actually works with you and actually is good. So,
Yeah.
what did you learn in the trajectory, and why'd you keep hiring coaches if a couple of them sucked for you?
Well, yeah, the problem was is like they would give me good ideas. The coaches, don't get me wrong, they were actually helpful, but my mindset was wrong. So like
Oh.
they would be giving me all these cool ideas, but I would say, you know what, that won't work. So my belief system was all off. So anything they were giving me, I was telling them, no, that won't work, or I'd try it for maybe a week and then I'd say give up on it. So what this guy did was for like 3 months solid, he would just pound stuff into my head and get me to change my belief system. Then he said, yes, Brian, it can work. I said, no, it can't work. I trust me. I've been doing this 22 years. It can't work. And so he eventually worked on my belief system. He's a big Tony Robbins guy. And once we got my belief system in, I think it took about 3 to 4 months. I just started building things piece by piece. And the next thing you know, we were like doubling sales.
Okay, that's huge and amazing for you to admit too, because sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, I hired a coach and it didn't freaking work," and
Yeah.
it's them. But at the time, I'm sure you didn't realize that it was your belief system. You just kept going, "Oh, it's not working. It's not working. It's not
Right.
working." So when
Exactly.
you had that light bulb turn on and you actually started doing the work and then saw some results, how
Yeah.
did your mindset actually shift?
What happened was it wasn't like one just huge boom. Actually, I remember there was a couple weeks where it did actually escalate to a huge amount, but there was just building blocks, like little things. He said, like the first thing I remember was no one can match paint colors like I can. So, and then I couldn't like the belief that no one could do it as good as me. And he said, Brian, okay, I understand no one can do it as good as you, but if someone can even do it like 80% as good as you, save you 2 hours a day of having to mix paint colors and make sure they're perfect. Could you do that? Could someone do that? I said, probably someone could do that. So once they got like started on it, and then I got some guy, like it was $13 an hour, some high school guy, and he got him to do it. I said, holy crap, well, if he can do that, well, maybe I can get someone to do this that's 80% as good as me. Because I had this belief that no one could ever do anything as good as me.
Because, we're entrepreneurs and we're the best at everything. Come on, right? But what's so
Absolutely.
important is like you can't multiply you being the best at the things that you're only the best at, right? So
Yeah.
being able to put those in place. So not only was it the marketing side, but it was also getting delegation and the right people on the team.
Absolutely. Like I said, delegation is something that I had to work on because I was a bit of a control freak. So I started small with something like paint chips, and eventually I got someone to be delivering orders to the customers, and then I got painters collecting money, and then like this was all little things in my day that were like eating away at my time, and then eventually I actually realized that okay, because I was really cheap, I didn't want to spend money on marketing or anything. I used to do it myself. So I realized that, okay, well, ROI, I never really understood the concept of ROI, return on investment. It's like, well, if I could pay whatever it is, Google AdWords, $200 a lead, and I could close whatever it is, maybe one in four of them, then that's like the average sales $4,000 for painting. So I was like, well, that's a huge return on investment. So I started looking at my business in terms of like what I could do exponentially, investments in marketing versus doing it all myself. And then, of course, delegating, because one thing you'll find when you start getting the ball rolling is you can't do everything yourself. You're going to have to start to delegate something. So the delegating was a muscle that I had to definitely improve on and build up. And to this point, I'm still working on certain parts of it. Like my sales part is the part I'm really working on now is getting guys to sell exactly the brand that I want to sell. So that's cool.
Ever evolving process, right? But when you start marketing and you start getting more clients, you there's nothing else you can do, so you have to delegate, and then you sell more and you delegate when you sell, and that's sort of the cycle. What did you
Yeah.
learn on the marketing side though that actually started going up? Because I'm sure the people that are listening right now are like, I want that. What did you do? How do I make my marketing go crazy?
Yeah, the first thing I did was I got a website, and for anyone of you that have a website now, you're miles ahead of where I was back 4 or 5 years ago. So that's great. We got a pay-per-click campaign. We invested in Infusionsoft, which is our CRM, which organizes the customers that come in and helps us close at a better close rate, as well as testimonials, as well as on-site review sites, which is great for us. Homestars in Canada is huge for any painter or any trade. If you're a trade and you want to improve your business, you got to get on these review sites because that's what people are using nowadays as review sites.
Awesome. So Infusionsoft is a beast. I use it also. How does the non-tech guy start using that? Because I know I'm a geek and I still am
Yeah.
like, okay, my mind gets blown.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm still a little bit confused on it, but what I do is this was where I actually got into the point where I can't figure this out. I got to delegate this thing out. So I'm still not a tech guy, but I got my guy Kelsey Ratcher, who's from Higher Gun Solutions, and he does all my Infusionsoft. I'm really good at telling them what to do though, in terms of what I want from my customers. I'm saying, okay, I'm having trouble in this stage of the process. I can't get them from this stage to this stage to close. They're all in, let's say, appointment set, and I can't get them to get them to set up the appointment. So what we do is we come up with content based on our stages in the business. So what we did was we broke down our sales process, our whole marketing process, from the time a new lead comes in to the time it closes, and then even a follow-up system after that. So that's what we did. We broke up our system. And then, and with respect to Kelsey, he actually does all the work. So I don't actually even do anything. I just tell him what I want and what I need from it, and where I'm getting stuck and where I need help on.
I have somebody that does that too. I'm like, okay, fix this for me, because I don't know how to actually go in there and do it. Because it's not worth our time to really learn the whole system, especially when you can delegate it to someone that actually knows, right?
Absolutely. I tried for 3-4 months and I got nowhere with it. And I was even about to quit Infusionsoft because it just wasn't getting there. And I even got set up, spent $2,000 getting set up, and I still wasn't there. Like, I was like, okay, teach me how to do it. They tried to teach me a bit, but they can only teach you so much in 7 to 8 hours at $200 a pop. So unfortunately, I didn't get anywhere with that way. So I just eventually delegated out. And again, ROIs, I was thinking, okay, if I could spend, let's say, $5,000 a year spending on a guy to implement this, and if I could even get one sale from that, the average sale is $4,000. It pays itself off, and for that matter, I've been able to, as I said, double sales and increase sales between 20 and 30% each year from them. So that's the way I'm looking at my business now.
Tell me about some of these systems, because I think that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. Can you walk me through creating one of those also? Because it seems a little daunting to people that have never done that.
We started really simple. He said, how do you get your customer? I said, well, I either cold call a customer or they call me from a lawn sign. And at the time, I didn't have my website even going. So we started with that, and then I would say, and what do you do next? And I say, well, I set up an appointment. I tell him I'm going to come by at 7 o'clock. And I say, okay, cool. So then he set a stage for that. And then I said, then what do you do? I said, well, I go to him, I give him a quote in about an hour, and then he says, okay, what are the outcomes? And I said, well, I either close it on the spot, they tell me they're getting other quotes, or whatever. There's certain scenarios. And then from there, what do you do? And he says, well, sometimes they call me back, or sometimes I call them back, and then they'll say, yeah, I think we're interested. So that we call verbal yes. That's a stage called verbal yes. And then from there, they either close or they turn into a dead lead. So we just broke it down stage by stage by stage. And that was I think there were 6 stages we started with. Okay. And then what happens is you start with that, and then you realize, okay, in one of these stages, like, Kelsey, I'm having trouble. I'm getting these customers. This customer's doing this customer's doing that. So then from there, we broke it down to 3 more stages in that stage. So start off small. I would say start off like simple, like, provide them a quote. You either close or you don't. And then, of course, after that, and you start marketing your business, you realize that, okay, we're getting stuck here. Give me you can segment your customers down, and so they can close. You can get a better closing ratio on that.
So what did you do before you had Infusionsoft? Like, were you using spreadsheets, or how did you keep track of all the people you were working with?
Just on paper. It was strictly on paper, and I would actually I have the paper somewhere. Basically, I would list them, and I would highlight them if they were a customer, and then I would just leave them in a callback date. So it was very simple. Wasn't even on a spreadsheet. I used computer, but it was mainly for emails and Facebook. That was it.
It's insane the upgrade that you had from before, but it's insane also how important that is for something. So that way things aren't getting lost. I mean, a piece of paper gets lost and you're like, there goes all my phone numbers with all my people. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Whenever you're building your business, like at the rate I think I was at about 350K before, not even that, 300,000 before I got Infusionsoft. And then from there, we were, I think, 1.3 million to 2014, and then we went to 1.9 last year, and this year we're trying for about 3 million. So we almost tenfolded our sales in 4 to 5 years. So And so the bottom line is, if you're growing your business, absolutely crucial. You gotta be keep tracking these things, and you want to be if you want to scale your business, you have to automate it. The bottom line,
I
and keep
agree
tracking.
1,000%. But the hard thing is that when people are in their business, right? And you're the guy doing the $300,000 worth of work and trying to do everything,
Yeah,
having the time to be able
yeah.
to implement some of this stuff, even if you delegate like Infusionsoft, is rough. How did you make that transition to work on the business for a long time instead of in it?
The first thing you do, well, I also subscribe to Strategic Coach, and the good thing about Strategic Coach, they teach you the psychology behind what you actually should be doing. So what I did was I took an inventory of all the things I was doing. Like I said, I was pretty stubborn. I wanted to do everything myself, and what I did was I started to chip away at the things that ate up my day that I could delegate right away. For example, paint chips, picking up money from customers. I didn't want anyone to touch my customers. I was like, I want to get that review myself. So I didn't believe anyone could get a positive 10 out of 10 review. So all these things. So I took an inventory and I started chipping away at those things that were eating up my time. And then even now, when I'm like going to the grocery store, I'm thinking, do I need to be grocery shopping? So I'm delegating it to my nanny or to one of my assistants. So I really try to get myself zoned in on what I'm good at and what's making the business the most amount of money at this point in time, which I call my unique ability.
Heck yeah. Okay, so tell me, what were those pivotal pieces, those little things that you changed that made a huge difference? Infusionsoft was definitely one of them, is
Yeah,
what it sounds
yeah.
like, and the automation. But give me another one that really made a big difference.
For painting, the thing that was taking up my time, well, the two things that were taking up my time was three things actually, was getting back to customers, setting up appointments. The other one was follow-ups throughout the job, like trying to close these customers. So getting sales reps to actually go out and give the quotes as well as following up. And the third was production. So those were three really, really high-level things in terms of what I got people to do, and now they're doing it for me better than me. Okay, which is amazing. But so those were the three things. And so I started out with little things. Like I started delegating small, like, okay, well, if you can call the customer back and find out where they are in the buying process, and you don't have to sell them, just find out where they are. And if they're ready to buy, or if they're close to buying, give them to me, and then I'll close them. So I just started out with little things. Like I said, it's a muscle. And then as soon as you can trust, let's say, build that trust level like anything, then you can delegate more and more and more. It's just kind of like a muscle that you have to build. And in each one of the functions of my business, like production, appointment setting, I call it bid provided callbacks, following up, and sales, if you kind of break each one of those processes down and then kind of nip away at all those little tasks and then try to break that job down even more, then you can start delegating little bits and pieces of it rather than saying, no one can do it as good as me. I don't trust anyone. I'm going to do everything.
So tell me about, so 300,000, who was your first hire, and like how many people have you hired all the way to where you are now?
Oh God. The first tough one, like I said, was, the field stuff, just the general duties, delivering ladders. The second interesting hire because I already had painters. That's the
Mhm.
one thing I could delegate was painting because I'm a terrible painter.
Are you
Okay.
really? That's
Yeah.
funny.
I'm good at selling it. I'm good at knowing where to, like, what to tell a customer what to do, obviously. But in terms of the actual physical, I'm below average at best.
That's why it's easy
That's
to give that away, because you're like, ah, all right, someone else can do that part.
exactly. So what was the question? I got sidetracked.
So who's your first hire and how'd
Sorry.
you grow?
Oh, okay. This was the biggie. Because I've never worked with appointment setters or let's say executive assistants.
Hmm.
That was a huge thing because I was getting bogged down in administration, phone calls, leads coming in, lead qualifying. So I got someone to do that. And once I got that off my plate, I could spend more time on production, which I'm good at, and sales, which I'm even better at. So that was the big thing. If you can get someone, I don't know if an entrepreneur, I don't know if they're good at doing administration, probably not if you're an entrepreneur. Get someone to do that, and you don't have to get them to do everything. Start off slow, start off small, get them to do little things that you know that anyone can pretty much do, and then start delegating more and more. Build that muscle up.
Awesome. I agree with that 1,000% too. It's funny, us as entrepreneurs, we're a little ADD, a little all over the place. Usually details are not our main strong suit for the profile type entrepreneur. I don't know why we have such a hard time giving it up, but it is that interaction, because you want to make sure that your people are getting the interaction that you really, really want. Like you said, the brand, to make sure that they trust you. How have you done that and getting that to stay the same the whole way through?
Like I said, it's a matter of delegating little pieces, breaking each job down. And the other thing is when I delegate, I'm still a little bit of a control freak. I like to watch them do it. Make sure they're doing the scripts that I like to say in terms of how I like to set it done. And then I like to shadow them for at least a few times. And then I like to also drop by every now and again, 2 to 4 weeks for my salespeople every week. I like to drop in randomly every 2 weeks just to see how they're doing and make sure that we're still doing the brand and the way that I like to do it. So that's something you can delegate too. And I haven't quite delegated that part, the management part of we call the operations manager part of the business, but definitely that's something that's on the agenda as well.
Yes, little things at a time, like you said. So you have scripts, you have very specific things. And so you spend a lot of time systematizing absolutely everything. Where do you keep those scripts? So like, let's say you hire somebody new. Do you have like a whole system on onboarding new people, employees, that sort of thing?
For sales, I do, because that's the part that I'm in really, really knee deep in. And so what I do is I have a PowerPoint presentation and I record myself. I have this little pen here. I'll show you this little pen. And what I do when I go out on sales calls, certain ones, I'll actually record myself. I'll say, do you mind if I record this? And they don't mind. So I just stick the pen in my pocket and then I record it. And then I'll have someone, I'm not a great teacher, actually. I'm not a great teacher. So what I'll do is I'll just record certain appointments. And then I'll get my salespeople to watch this. If they're not out with me, I'll tell them to watch it on a regular basis. And even things like quoting, I don't really have a great system for that either. But what I do is I at least try to tell them what I'm thinking. And I do that in our Ring Central meetings. I record it. And then we have Dropbox, where I put all the files in. And they just watch it as necessary. And I just say, I did a couple sales. I think you should watch it. And eventually people get it.
How long does that take? Because I remember my mentor taught me sales way back when, and I had like a grayscale script that I was trying not to like stare at and look at to be able to talk to them, especially because I was horrible at sales. But it took me a really long time to actually get better at it. How long do you think it really takes to get an employee from brand new to really understanding?
For sales, actually, what I was doing was I was trying to get salespeople to sell painting, which didn't quite work. And I'll tell you why, because they would know the sales scripts in terms of like all the smooth and start part, but they wouldn't get the actual technical part, which takes years to learn.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting painters that just have really good personalities to sell, and they're a lot cheaper than salespeople. They're not as commission based, but the brand actually sells part of itself. So, so to answer your question, how long? I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. If they're not getting it after 2 to 4 weeks, then I make changes.
That's a genius approach, though. Usually you'd be like, oh, I want to hire the guy that's really good at closing. But for you, especially in the industry you're in, I didn't realize that it takes years and years and years to learn painting and how that goes.
There's so many different variables. And my target market customers, they really want to know the technical knowledge. They don't want to be sold like whatever on some people they sell you like stock markets or anything. So actually the brand actually sells itself, and the reviews, like our online reviews, our testimonials, our before and after pictures, our website. If you go to the website, homepainterstoronto.com, you'll see how we market it. That actually sells itself, and at least versus our competition anyway, they buy from us one out of more than 33%. So that sells itself. So I don't really need a killer salesperson. You just need someone that has a really good personality, friendly, connects with people, and gives them the technical information that they need to know that we're going to solve their problem.
I love this. So we can see your trajectory of like learning and testing new things and seeing how things go. Let me ask you this though too, because I'm just curious, because Matt Schaup is a good friend of mine. And I'm going, okay, so how long are we going to be painting houses now that we have vinyl and all sorts of other stuff? Yeah. Things change, especially tech-wise. What's your plan for the future on that?
Good question. Actually started as an exterior painter, only exterior up till about 2007. So I didn't even start painting interior regularly until 2007. So exterior was being phased out every day because vinyl, aluminum in Toronto, they don't build wood anymore. Yeah. So just through need, and in fact, our product line is changing every year because I get calls on brick staining. I'm like, who the heck would want to do brick staining? But there's more and more calls for that. So as the calls come in for different things, I actually come up with different products, and we're coming out with different products all the time. And we just came out with a second website, what's the name of it? Painterpro.ca. And it focuses on handyman stuff. because I'm not good at handyman stuff. I barely know how to quote it. But so what I do now is I hire carpenters to do the stuff that my customers want to do. And the reason my customers need it done because there's not enough trades that are willing to do certain types of jobs. And they'll call me for painting, but they need this door fixed or else we can't paint the rest of their room. So I'll get my carpenter now to come in there and we'll mark it up, of course, appropriately, and we'll make money off of that as well.
I love when you're in a business, you see all the opportunities absolutely everywhere else. And you're like, now
Yeah.
that I know the business side, all I do is create the system for that. And we move forward and we grow that way too.
Yeah, once you learn the marketing template on how to market painting, you could market it to almost anything, any trade, at least for that matter. Because we're expanding to Oakville now, which is a part of Toronto. We're expanding to Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary. We're doing all these different things, and we're just basically taking the template that I did for Home Painters Toronto and duplicating in other cities and different products as well.
Let me ask you about that because I have a lot of clients and they're like, do I franchise? Do I expand? And that takes you away from the core business. So what does that look like? How did you make those decisions? And did you even think about franchising?
Yeah, I did think about franchising, and I started from a franchise. I started with Student Painters back in 1987.
Nice.
And not to put all franchising down, but I've never, at least in my lifetime, in my 28 years of being in painting, seen painting as a franchise really succeed. And what I mean by really succeed is I'm saying like, making $250,000 a year or more, like net profit after all your expenses and everything, and to be giving you the freedom that you want. I've seen some painting companies do anywhere from 25 to 75,000, which is okay, but my painters are making more than that. So, to me, to take all that risk on and be making 50, 60, 70,000 to me isn't, a good deal. So I just have the belief, or at least so far, I have the belief that I don't think it works in franchising. So my goal is to actually take the people that I have in Toronto, build that team up, and eventually not sub it out, but to branch it off and have them work in different parts of the country and the city, just because I've personally trained them and I've worked with them for years. And basically I'm having a meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to have a meeting with over 45 guys. I'm going to say, guys, I want to grow my business. So if you guys really want to make more money and not just be a painter all your life, I'm giving you like a ticket to do that. So hopefully we'll see what happens.
I'm so excited to hear about that. Tell me about how we can get those guys to be with you for so long. Like when I was chatting with Matt or any of the guys that I've worked at in this trade industry, you get people not showing up to work because they were drunk the night before, or you know what I mean? How did you mitigate that and hire right?
That's a tough thing. I have a full-time recruiter now, and what she does is she filters through emails, does all the dirty work that I don't want to be doing, and then she puts me in front of the top people on a regular basis. So we have ads going all the time in Indeed, Kijiji, and I'd say on average, we get anywhere from 10 to 20 a week. And if we're lucky, we get maybe 2, and we're just always getting those, like you can find those nuggets, but they are there. It's a matter of finding them. And then of course, once painters, the great thing about painters that I love is the fact that they're solo maintenance. And what I mean by that is all they need is they want work every day. They want to be they want work every day. They want to be paid on time, and this is the minor thing. They just want to be respected a little bit. So like they don't need all this coddling and these quarterly reviews and everything. They just need to be like, good job, keep it up, man, keep going, and they're happy. So yeah, so if you pay them on time, you give them work all the time, and then you respect them a little bit, like give them obviously positive feedback, then yeah, they're good.
So it's not about them going, okay, I want more money or I want advancement or anything, because they sort of know there's not a lot of advancement besides your expansion, right?
Sometimes they do want advancement, and that's great. But then what you do is say, okay, so great. So you want this money. So what are you willing to do for that? And they'll say, well, I'm willing to work a little bit extra. Or some of them don't want to work extra. They'll say, well, if you're not going to work extra, if you're not going to do anything more, why should I pay you more? I said, would you pay me more if I wasn't doing anything extra for you? And then they say, of course not. So it's a matter of figure out where their goals are and what they're willing to do. And like I said, we're expanding at crazy amounts. So for example, Rick's my production manager, and I'm saying Rick is going to be going to Vancouver in about a year and a half. So we're going to need someone for his position in about 6 months to a year. So step up someone.
That's awesome. How did you get good, especially the guy that wasn't good at delegating? How did you get good at managing managers and figuring out who's a good manager for the teams that you have for painting?
Yeah, that's something I don't know as an entrepreneur. I'm not a great manager still. And what I'm doing, like I said, the fact that they're low maintenance guys, these production guys, most of them just want to be say a little bit appreciation and give them a little bit more compensation, give them incentives. In a program right now called the Elite Forum, and they actually work out quarterly reviews, measurable, called the Big Three, where you have 3 goals each quarter, and you just focus on those those big 3, and then based on the metrics on those big 3, you can compensate them accordingly.
Ah, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so I love how much you get information from other people that know what they're doing. You're like, okay, so I hired a coach for this. I hired an Infusionsoft guy for this. I didn't know about this, so I went there and did that. How do you put so much investment into it, especially when at the beginning maybe you didn't have it?
Yeah, basically, like I said, my budget was $5,000, I think, back in 2012. So it wasn't very much. Now my budget's over 50,000 just on personal development alone. Okay, and that's I'll tell you what I spend it on. Basically, I spend 25,000 on strategic coach and about 22,000 on of the Elite Forum and the Momentum group that I'm in, and 5,000 on miscellaneous things here and there. So it's roughly $50,000 that we spend now. And so I've committed to that. And the only reason why I look at it this way, okay, like last year, our sales was around 1.9 million. And I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get to 2.9 million or 3 million? That was our goal, 3 million. So I had no idea because I've never done this before. So I figure I need someone's help. I either need someone that's done it before, I need like a group or someone to help me do that. Because I wasn't going to do it basically doing the same thing that I was doing. So that's what I've done is I've let's say surrounded myself with some really, really cool people in terms of helping us in some great educational material that's gotten me there.
I have heard amazing things about Strategic Coach. So give me like 1 or 2 takeaways that you've implemented that they suggested, besides, writing down everything you've done, but that really made a big difference. Because I have friends that are in it too, and they rave about it.
Yeah, I would say unique ability. I spoke about that already.
Yeah.
Figure out what you love doing and what you're great at doing. Okay, let's say if it's sales. For me, it was sales. So, okay, so then you make an inventory. Okay, sales, I love doing. I would love to do that 60% of my day. And then figure out what's taking up your time. In production was taking up my time. I don't hate production, but I'm not the best at it. I'm decent at it, but I'm not like a 10 out of 10 at it. So I'm saying, okay, I want to get production off my plate. I can't stand dealing with like customers that haven't been qualified yet. So I don't want to be like dealing with tire kickers, dealing with day-to-day issues, grocery shopping, dealing with kids when they're crying in the morning. I don't want to be dealing with that. So what I did was I took an inventory of all the things, and then I had the list, and then I figured out what I wanted to be doing, and then the parts that I didn't want to be doing, I started chipping away at those delegations. And then like I said, sales, my average sales is about $4,000 to $5,000. And if I can make 1 sale in an hour, that pays for pretty much, any amount of hourly pay I would pay for someone to do that other stuff. So I was looking at it, well, if I can do maybe 3 more or 4 more sales a week, that would turn into $16,000 in revenue easily. So that would easily pay for that, the nanny, the administrator, the production assistant, the foreman to do the things that I hated doing.
And so you're like, now I don't have to do the stuff I hate. I only do the stuff I like. And yeah, it just sort of flows that way. I'm sure it wasn't all sunshine and roses when you were trying to make that transition, though.
Yeah, and you can even start. And in fact, if you're not sure about like how am I going to do this, I started with ex-girlfriends, ex-wives, because I could only trust some of them when it came to my finances. So I would actually get my ex-wife to do my my bookkeeping and my bank account, because she pretty much had her hand in that anyway. So I was like, well, I'll pay a little bit more. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And now she does all my payroll and everything. So yeah. So start with someone if you're really stuck on it and you're a little bit not sure, give them like $10 an hour. Get someone that you trust and so that you don't have to go outside and make the leap into trying to hire someone like from that you don't know.
Advice for control freaks, right? I totally get it. Exactly. Awesome. I know we have to start wrapping up right now. So what's one action out of everything that you've done? What's one action that you suggest for everybody listening to move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
I would say when you're stuck, I find a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. And the key to getting unstuck to me is try not to look at your business as I got to do all this stuff. So instead of saying, okay, I want to get the $1 million by next August. Okay, so let's break this down. what's stopping you right now from taking an action that needs to be done? So it'll be usually like, oh, I don't really want to sell. I don't want to sell, or I don't want to. So get something, do something to get in that direction, whether it be hire a coach. For me, it was Google. I was just started Googling things, and then I'd hire a coach. So that's something as simple as that. Calling someone, calling your competition, for Christ's sake, just do anything. I would actually, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, totally.
I actually, when I was so cheap, I didn't want to hire a coach. I would call my competition, but I would call them outside Toronto so they knew I wasn't competing with them. I didn't want to hire a coach. So I would say, hey, listen, I'm having some trouble. Can you help me out here? And there'd be a painter from whatever, California. And they say, yeah, sure, I'll help you. But you call your competition. That's what I used to do if you're stuck.
I have told people to do that too. Because in trades, when it's local, you can totally talk to people that are farther away that may have solved that problem beforehand. Create a mastermind group. So if you can't afford a coach, create a mastermind group of people that aren't direct competition and do that same thing. That's amazing. Awesome. So I highly, highly recommend anybody, if there's something specific, go get uncomfortable, go try and get that spot that gets you unstuck. Even if it's wrong, you're still making forward momentum, because then you know what didn't work.
Yeah, so, give me a call. I don't care. I'm good.
Oh, watch out. You ask for that, they'll bombard you. You're going to be like, I have to delegate somebody else taking these phone calls because this is just too
I find them fun.
And this is what I thought was amazing about you. You're like, you know what? I do this because I find this ridiculously fun. So where can we find out more about you online and all the websites and everything that you've got?
Well, our website is homepainterstoronto.com, and you can email me directly at marketer@homepainterstoronto.com. And the website that I'm actually building out, which I'm eventually going to hopefully be able to teach other painters what to do, is paintingmarketer.com.
See, and I love this.
By the way, if you're a painter and you're looking to, you're not great at marketing, but you want to really expand your business, go to the paintingmarketer.com, and I'll make sure you're in the right hands.
I think that's amazing, especially the guy who says he's not the marketer and his email address is marketer@. I think that's great. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want more like it, go to eventualmillionaire.com. If you click on the millionaire case studies, you will see over 200 millionaire interviews. I don't want you to get overwhelmed, of course, but I do want you to pick the one that might make the biggest difference in your business today. So what's something you're struggling with, and take a look and see if one of those could specifically help you. Don't just take information for information's sake. I want you to be able to take the information, have it applicable to you right now. You use it, you take action, you see results, you come back and go, Jamie, that was amazing. That's what I want. So go check out eventualmillionaire.com and click on the millionaire case studies. Thanks.